Hey Matt, it's Sunday and this video is approximately a week and a half late since I missed last Thursday, and I've missed this Thursday also. Now, the reasons are many, the reasons are boring. It essentially boils down to being stupidly busy, starting on medication which has kind of knocked me for a loop, as well as, 2 jobs. It got a bit much and I had a lot of stuff to do at home, and now there's people in the house more and more, so recording gets more difficult. It's a combination of things, but I'm recording today as I've already warned you about previously on Twitter. Apologies again. But let's move past that. So I'm actually sat here kind of damp because I've just been out doing gardening. Now, as you're aware, British weather is very variable very quickly, and we've had really nice, really hot, humid weather. However, we also have thunderstorms. Where I live is kind of like on a river and in a bit of a dip, so we tend to miss most of the bad weather. That tends to sort of break in the rest of the country, which is great. We are still known for rain here. I was hit by a sudden, very strong, very torrential downpour while I was gardening. Instead of stopping, I just kept going. The garden was overgrown because of weather like this being really warm and humid, and then you get the rain and it's warm and humid again. Encourages weeds to grow at an exponential rate. This is what it looked like before, this is what it looked like afterwards. It only took me about 45 minutes, I think, in the rain, so now I'm wet. I've been stung more than a few times by nettles, but that's fine. But while I was doing so, I was listening to an audiobook on my Audible list, and it was the Zombie Survival Guide. I've read World War Z and Zombie Survival Guide several times, but it's the first time I've listened to this as an audiobook. I suppose a bit of backstory first. World War Z is a follow-on to the Zombie Survival Guide. Now, the Zombie Survival Guide is a book produced in the style of a literal survival guide of how to survive a zombie apocalypse. It takes you through the stages of zombie uprisings, the occasional zombie in a population center, which then leads to a category 3 for blah blah blah. And it gives you fictional tips on how to survive in the wilderness, where to set up a bastion against the undead, how to deal with other survivors, how to deal with fine resources, that kind of thing. It's really exhaustive and it's actually really good. For its somewhat sarcastic, informative nature, despite being a work of fiction, there is a lot of stuff in there you can actually take and apply to real world scenarios on how to better sort of use resources around you. It's really quite clever. World War Z is, like I said, the follow-on, but this book is taken as in there's a journalist going around the world talking to different people who survived during the zombie apocalypse, which followed the advice from the Zombie Survival Guide, which again, really clever, different accounts of different people from different cultures, different scenarios, big battles, the army against zombies, people surviving in cities and wilderness. One thing I found with both books, because I listened to World War Z after the pandemic started, is that I was listening to them talk about viruses and governments ignoring signs at the beginning until it was too late, and then mass infections happened, and the parallels between that and COVID, frankly, striking. Bearing in mind, I read both books many years ago, and I've read them and listened to them now, obviously, but I've read them several times over the years, as I do tend to go back to books I really enjoyed. Never before have I looked at the book from this sort of setting. Before, I enjoyed the book for what it was, a clever work of fiction, whereas now I'm looking at it thinking it kind of predicted what was going to happen without even realizing. The virus is called selenium, which is the thing that reanimates people into zombies, but you could probably take that word selenium and put COVID in its place, and the book would make sense. It would just be strikingly similar to what we have now. Obviously, the difference being that we're quarantined at home and COVID is horrible and dangerous, but doesn't reanimate people into shambling monstrosities that consume the flesh. Still, some of the parallels are frankly striking. It's amusing in a sort of bleak, dire sort of way. Although it does mention the AIDS pandemic, so obviously this sort of thing has happened before. The whole government's ignoring things until they've gotten too bad and they have to deal with them after a lot of people have died and been infected. So it's not like it hasn't happened before. The book is based off some other stuff that happened in the past. Not zombie related, obviously virus related, but still parallels to now. 19 months in. Is it 19 months? I actually forget now. We're close to 2 years, I think. It was a pandemic, so it's just fascinating, honestly. And the books, as I say, if you haven't read them or listened to them, I would advise you to really have a go at them, because at the minute with what we're going through, you will see some parallels, as I say, and they're just really good books, and there's sort of things you can put down and come back to, but they're broken up obviously into chapters and sections. Like the Zombie Survival Guide starts with something really generic, basics about what a zombie is and the biology, and then it goes into basic survival tips, and then what you should do, get a group together, all the rest of it. But you could just stop at the end of a chapter, you're not going to miss anything by waiting 2 weeks and then reading the next chapter. World War Z again is the same, because it's split up into different people's accounts of the outbreak starting to the beginning of the apocalypse, which you could call it pandemic apocalypse, and then sort of as you go along talking to different people at different stages of this worldwide pandemic of zombies. The problem with me is I binge these things anyway, so I probably couldn't put one down if I wanted to, and I have to listen to things extensively because that's just the way I am. Not sure if you're aware, but Audible has just released this new program that, as well as getting you credit every month to get a new book, they actually give you a whole library of stuff you listen to for free as part of your membership, and one of them was the Vampire Survival Guide, which was written in the same vein. Vein, get it? Vampires. Anyway, that was really fun, and that was much more sarcastic than the Zombie Survival Guide, but that reminded me that the Zombie Survival Guide existed, so now I bought that again via Audible, this time, and now I'm listening to that. But the video's basically just been me saying how you can't depend on me doing videos because life is so hectic, and then rambling about zombies and a little bit about vampires and making shit puns about really good books having real world parallels to what we're facing now. Really interesting. Have you read anything that sort of could be parallel to what we're facing at the moment? Maybe in years gone by when you think about it, there's more parallels than you realise. I'm sure there's a lot of different fiction out there, and non-fiction actually. Have a great day, keep mattering, and I hope to see you on Monday, and I hope to damn that I'll be back on Thursday.